Hey y'all, this is George Cook at African American Report. You're probably hearing a lot right now about the Voting Rights Act in the Supreme Court, and you probably don't know what's going on. Well, here's a video of 3 members of the Congressional Black Caucus, including the chair, Yvette D. Clarke, explaining what's going on. Check this out, y'all.
Hi, it's Congresswoman Sewell,
Congressman Troy Carter,
and Congresswoman Yvette Clarke of New York.
We're standing at the nation's capital, a stone's throw away from the Supreme Court, where they heard oral argument today in the Louisiana versus Calais case. And what the Supreme Court is considering is whether or not majority-minority districts, many of which we all represent, whether it violates the Constitution. Congressman Troy Carter, I know this is your state. What are your thoughts about where we are and what's at stake?
Our Louisiana legislature, which is controlled by Republicans, the House, the Senate, and the governor's mansion, they drafted, passed a law that created our second district, another minority-majority district that's represented here in the Congress, based on the math, based on the demographic facts per the Constitution. It was passed by a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and it was signed into law by a Republican governor. It was defended by a Republican Attorney General and a Republican Secretary of State. Now you ask the question, what's different now? I'll tell you what's different. The man that occupies the White House. This is an attempt to defend what can't be defended. They know they can't defend this big, ugly law. So instead of going to battle and defending what you've done, they attempt to change the rules and illegally take away seats. While this case directly impacts Louisiana, it's a piercing of the veil that really impacts the entire country. 1965 brought us the Voting Rights Act, and the things that brought it there are still present today. Absolutely. Its need is not a relic. It's not old. It's not overplayed. It's essential, and would dare say that with Project 2025 and all the other issues at play, it's needed even more.
We know that the Congressional Black Caucus began in 1971. One woman and 12 men, 13 of us. Now we're 62 strong. What do you see as at stake if we lose this case?
Let me just say that as a direct beneficiary of the sacrifices of the people who made it possible for there to be fair representation in the United States of America, and I would argue who perfected our democracy in doing so by making sure that every lived experience would have the opportunity to elect representatives that reflect their backgrounds, their lived experiences, their environments, was not a stroke of genius, but was an imperative in perfecting our democracy. And so this case coming before the Supreme Court today challenges all of that. We would not have a CBC, Congressional Black Caucus, of 62 members strong were it not for those foot soldiers that crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
I am so proud of these incredible leaders, and I'm proud of the people. Today, we had hundreds of people outside the Supreme Court, inside the Supreme Court, demonstrating. It looked like America. Yeah. It was a potpourri of people standing up for the rights and privileges that we as Americans deserve.
And John would be excited because we got into some what?
All right, y'all, I hope that explains some of what's going on, and pay attention. We could possibly have less rights than our parents and grandparents had. Pay attention. Goodbye and God bless y'all.